In my first life, I believed love had to burn like fire. Fierce, dazzling, consuming. I was young and foolish, drawn to the man whose words glimmered like gold in the light, who promised me the stars and made me believe he could hold them in his hands. I thought passion was proof, and gentleness was dull. I never noticed the quiet one, the man who stood behind me at every turn, who picked up the pieces when the golden man shattered me, who smiled as though my happiness was enough to keep him alive. I was blind. His name was Cale, a knight of no great name but unmatched loyalty. I met him on the day I first entered the royal court, when I was chosen as one of the candidates to serve under Prince Alaric, the man I thought I loved. Cale was assigned as my escort. I barely noticed him at first, except for the way his armor gleamed, always polished yet unadorned, the way he seemed to melt into the edges of the world, existing quietly in the background. I was too busy chasing the prince's attention, too dazzled by his smile. And when Alaric looked at me, truly looked, I felt like I'd been chosen by the gods themselves. I mistook his interest for love, his words for truth, his ambition for strength. I didn't see that I was just a convenient pawn in his grand designs. Cale tried to warn me once. His voice was low, steady, the way all true warnings are. "Not every light leads you home," he said. I laughed at him then, thinking he was jealous or overprotective. He didn't argue. He only bowed his head, as if he already knew what pain I was walking toward. When betrayal came, it came quietly. There were no shouts, no grand revelations. Just silence, the kind that follows when the truth cuts too deep to scream. Alaric turned on me the moment his ambitions were threatened. My name was dragged through the court, my reputation shredded by whispers. I was accused of treason, of betraying him, the very man for whom I would have died. And when I was dragged before the throne for judgment, I saw Cale kneeling there among the guards, his eyes filled with a pain I couldn't understand. He tried to save me. He fought for me. But by then it was too late. I died with Alaric's name still on my lips, and Cale's voice the last sound I heard, breaking as he called mine. When I opened my eyes again, the air was warm and sweet with the scent of spring. I was back in the moment before I ever entered the palace, before I met Alaric, before I lost everything. My hands trembled as I stared at the world I thought I'd left behind. Fate had given me another chance, a gift, or perhaps a test. And then I saw him. Cale stood by the old courtyard well, sunlight catching in his hair, his expression calm and unguarded. He didn't notice me at first, and for a heartbeat, I simply watched him. The way his lips curved slightly, when the wind brushed his cheek, the steady way he breathed like a man who found peace even in silence. He had always been there. I had just never looked. This time I did. I approached him, my heart pounding with something like recognition and shame. "Cale," I said softly. He turned, startled, his eyes meeting mine. Those same warm brown eyes I once overlooked. "My lady," he said, bowing slightly. "You shouldn't be out here alone. The path is uneven." I laughed, the sound trembling. "You always say that." He blinked, confusion flickering across his face. But I didn't explain. I just smiled, a small, steady smile, and said, "Walk with me." From that day on, I did not chase the prince's shadow. When we were summoned to the palace, I went because it was duty, not desire. I kept my distance from Alaric's bright words, his intoxicating promises. And I noticed the things I once ignored, how his flattery always circled back to himself, how his charm faltered when he wasn't being admired, how his gaze flickered past me when he thought no one saw. And beside me, always, was Cale, quiet, reliable, constant. When court gossip turned cruel, he was there with a steady presence, his silence a shield against the whispers. When Alaric's ambitions began to twist into cruelty again, Cale was the one who warned me, his words gentle but firm. But this time, I listened. Once, late at night, I found him sharpening his sword by the fire. His hands were sure, his movements deliberate. I asked, "Do you ever tire of protecting people who don't deserve it?" He looked up, his eyes shadowed by the firelight. "Deserve doesn't matter," he said. "When you care for someone, you protect them anyway." That was when I understood. His love had never been loud. It had never needed to be. It was built in the quiet moments, in the way he walked half a step behind, so I wouldn't trip on my dress, in the way he never reached for me, but was always there if I reached for him, in the way his gaze softened when he thought I wasn't looking. Love, I realized, was not fire. It was earth, solid, steady, the thing that holds you when everything else burns. So when Alaric came again with his honeyed lies and golden smile, I smiled back and let him believe I was the same naive girl he once deceived. But this time, I set the board. I whispered to the right people, moved the right pieces. And when he reached for power through betrayal once more, it was not my name that fell. It was his. The court turned on him in a single night. His allies deserted him. His words lost their magic. His ambition crumbled like ash. I watched from the shadows, not with malice, but with clarity. The man I once loved was nothing but a mirror, reflecting what I wanted to see, never what was real. And beside me, as always, was Cale. When it was over, when Alaric was gone and the court quiet again, I found Cale standing alone in the palace garden. The moonlight touched his armor, turning it silver. He didn't look up when I approached. "You've changed," he said softly. "You see more than you used to." I stepped closer, my hand trembling as I reached for his. "No," I whispered. I just finally opened my eyes. He hesitated, as though afraid to believe what he'd heard. His fingers brushed mine, hesitant, reverent, and I felt warmth flood through me, a warmth deeper than any fire I'd ever known. "Cale," I said, voice shaking. In my first life, I was blind. I chased illusions and ignored what was real. I won't do that again. If you'll let me, I'd like to walk beside you, this time, not as someone you must protect, but as someone who chooses you. He looked at me for a long moment, and then he smiled. That quiet, unassuming smile that had once gone unnoticed. "Then walk with me," he said. "That's all I've ever wanted." In that moment, I understood what love truly was. Not the blinding brightness that burns out too soon, but the steady glow that warms your soul and never asks to be seen. And as we walked together beneath the stars, I knew that in this life, I would not make the same mistake. This time, I had found him. The man who loved me silently, steadfastly, endlessly. And I would never let him go.